Now, let's speak with the chairman of the Nigerian governors from Governor Fayemi. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight on the program. Let's begin by asking you, I know there was a meeting of the governors in this respect, one of the agenda, I think, of Friday. We understand that there was a meeting. Give us an understanding of the position of the governors, because what the governors presented and proposed to the revenue RMAFC was slightly different from what RMAFC presented to President Muhammadu Buhari. Are you satisfied with the position or the review, the formula that RMAFC has presented to President Buhari?
Ashton, good evening, and let me also extend happy Palm Sunday wishes to your viewers at home. First, I think we must commend RMAFC for bringing this work to this stage. This is not the first time RMAFC has done this. It was done under President Obasanjo, it was done under President Goodluck Jonathan, but it never saw the light of day. And President Buhari must be commended for being the very first president that has not just accepted the report, but also provided a basis for resolving this very, very contentious issue by also arguing, and I think correctly, that we should align what is coming from RMAFC with the proposals that are also ongoing on constitutional amendment, because there's an intersection in which all of these things are actually conjoined. As per our own proposals to RMAFC, yes, RMAFC requested for memoranda from a variety of institutions, interested parties, and governors as a body, through our forum, presented a memorandum to RMAFC. We did not expect that everything that we presented would in total be the final recommendation or even the final position that will be adopted by the country. I think we're more concerned about the principle and about the perpetual agenda, or shall I say tyranny of unfunded mandates. If you are going to give responsibilities, allocation must also be associated with such responsibilities. And this has been the contentious issues that states and local governments have had responsibilities thrust upon them, correctly so, by the principles of federalism, but the resources that have been put alongside those responsibilities have not been commensurate to the responsibilities assigned to states and local governments.
So, in essence, the governors are not at home with the formula in which RMAFC has presented. If I may ask, what is the formula that the governors propose to RMAFC?
I can't hear you, Sheon, so I really don't know what you just said. There's a problem.
Okay, so the question is that from the explanation that you gave earlier, it does look like the position of the governors of the 36 states are totally different from the formula that RMAFC gave. So I was asking, can you give us the position of the governors? What formula was it that the governors presented to RMAFC, or which the governors think will be fair in terms of the distribution and allocation of wealth?
Well, you know, the Nigerian Governors Forum has been on this matter for quite a considerable length of time. And I recall I was a member of the forum at the time that a committee was put together by the forum, the Fashola Committee. Governor Fashola, current Minister of Works, headed that committee. And what the committee recommended was that we should have a formula that is more resources allocated to states and the local government. And instead of the 42% that you've just seen that is being proposed, 45% that you've just shown on your screen, I believe it was 42% that the Nigerian Governors Forum has put forward, and 35% for states and 26% or thereabout for local governments.
Governors are concerned. It does still look that the federal government is bearing too much, and perhaps before I've heard some of the governors say that things are still lopsided. Does the governor still hold that view, that things are still lopsided and we are not following the true dictate and the principle of federalism?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the principle of federalism. Let's go to brass tacks on that principle of federalism. All that principles propound is that power is shared, powers are distributed between the central government and the regional or provincial or state government. The father of federalism, Professor K.C. Ware, actually proposed that when you do that, it's independent and coordinate powers. They are not subordinate. So states actually are not subordinate to the federal government. But because of the residue of militarism in our country, this has always been seen as though it's a master-servant relationship, and states are supposed to kowtow to what the federal government does. And instead of federation account that is joint, an impression is often created in the minds of Nigerians that it's federal government money that is being kindly and generously doled out to states or local governments. And that's clearly not what that principle proposes. As per whether it is still lopsided in favor of federal government, as I indicated earlier, it's about responsibilities. We have a constitution that has an exclusive list that is heavily loaded in favor of the federal government. And federal government gets involved even in businesses that should not be its business. Even when it agrees that these responsibilities should belong to state, for example, primary health care or even basic education, you still see federal entities wanting to play a supervening authority on these matters at the state level. And that's where the challenges really come from, as to whether the allocation that we have is still not appropriate. I would suggest to you that, just as we have said at the level of the Nigerian Governors Forum, our proposal is that what should go to federal government should be in the region of 42%, not the 45% that is being proposed. But let us even go forward. What President Buhari has done, and which he really should be commended for, is not to reject what RMAFC has proposed, but to say, let's wait to see what comes out of the constitutional amendment process, and let's align both, so that whatever responsibilities come out of that process, for example, if it will result in reduction in the items on the exclusive list and an increase in the responsibilities at the state or local government level, then the resources should also be aligned in accordance with the responsibilities are proposed in the new constitutional amendment process.
Before I go into some of the nitty-gritty of whether or not the review, the proposal or the report of RMAFC will see the light of day, because the president has said this will also be subjected to, it will be captured in constitutional amendment process, which then means also that the states, that tier of government is also involved in constitutional amendment process, and the governors and the state assemblies will have their say as far as that is concerned. Whether or not it will see, it will go through or fall through, it depends on that. But let me ask, we're talking about revenue now. And we're talking about how it should be shared, the evenness, the fairness of the sharing of this revenue. But there is a bigger picture here, that some of the states in Nigeria are not viable. They are not able to cater for their own needs. And it's obvious that they always go cap in hand to the center to get funds to even pay salaries. And some of them, some of these states, out of the 36 states, have severally been giving bailout funds to pay their own workers in their own state. Is there any lesson that your colleagues and yourself have learned over the last few years, especially with the issue of emergence of COVID-19? The pandemic actually posed a big trouble for economics across the world. Is there any big lesson for the states in terms of revenue? And are you looking into alternative ways of making money rather than running to the center every month?
Well, Sharon, thank you very much for your observation. Yes, we're talking about revenue allocation. We should also be focusing on revenue generation. And I can assure you that states are focused on revenue generation within the context of the opportunities available in their jurisdiction. However, you just committed that same faux pas that I mentioned earlier. You said states go cap in hand to the federal government. Federal government is not a Father Christmas. The resources belong to the federation account. Get that distinction right. That is without prejudice to your point about local government actually becoming local governance. Because if you don't generate resources, the level of legitimacy also erodes. So we need to look for ways in which the bulk of what we utilize at the local level also come from the resources available to us at the local level. And that's what many states are doing. COVID-19 has helped, you're right, because it has forced many of us to look at a whole variety of ways to create alternative economy, to create alternative revenue generation. But you can only tax your people so much. As a matter of fact, what we did in the context of COVID-19 was to write off many normal taxes in order to provide a cushioning effect to the payers of these taxes and allow them to deal with the vagaries of economic crunch that has come with COVID-19. But we have also, in the course of that period, looked at how to reduce the cost of governance and how to ensure that we develop new economies. We provide support for agriculture. We improve on broadband infrastructure. That's why you saw many states collapsing the tariff for right-of-way access for many telecoms companies that want to put in broadband infrastructure in their states. And if you look at the record, in the period that we have had to experience COVID-19 in the last 2 years, and we have those figures, we have that data in the Nigerian Governors Forum, most states have increased their revenue generation capacity, and they've made more money from blocking the loopholes in their taxation system, ensuring creative ways of generating money from the informal sector, and insisting on those who would normally want to hide, including federal establishments, from paying their taxes, meet their obligations to the state. So we would continue to do that, and there is no reason why states would shy away from generating more resources. There are no states, in my view, that are not viable. There's no state that is not viable. We need to do more to generate more revenue, but we also need to review our revenue system to ensure that what should come to states and to local authorities that are going to federal government are returned to states appropriately.
So it then brings me to the point because, like you mentioned, although the reality is a fact that it does look like the states will run to the center, cap in hand, but the real, the ideal is that the revenue belongs to everyone, the state, all the tiers of government. Exactly. In reality, is also the accusation and allegation against the state governors or the state having their knees and their legs on the necks of the local government, not allowing them to breathe, not allowing them to operate as the closest tier of government to the people, the grassroots government to the people. And you're speaking on behalf of all the 36 state governors tonight. For those who hold a view or who are not happy with the manner in which the local governments are performing and that the states and the governors are not allowing them to perform, how do you clear those kind of views of those Nigerians who believe that that tier of government is not functional at all? Is there any hope for that tier of government anyways?
Again, Sheung, let me, I'm a student of political science, so allow me to always return to the basic principles. Today in Nigeria, the local government is not a tier of government. It's an administrative vehicle for delivering on what the citizens within those jurisdictions would like to see. Federalism is a two-tier system. You have the federal government and you have the state government. The state government should be at liberty, in my view, to determine the number of administrative units they want to have within their geographic space in order to know how effective they will be. You have some states where what is most effective is the towns union. If you go to the southeastern part of this country, people discover that towns unions are much more accountable. People would not steal money belonging to the towns union because the strictures and the penalties are severe if it happens. But they don't have a problem stealing money that comes from an unknown government known as federal, state, or local government. So if the government of Anambra State, for example, feels that it wants to have 200 autonomous community government, because that is what will be more accountable to them, then so be it. That is what this principle should be about. However, this notion of force-feeding local government...
So, Captain, sorry, Your Excellency, the principle in our constitution, I'm not sure that the principle of the two-tier that you made reference to, I'm not sure that is what is representative in the Nigerian constitution.
That is what is represented in the constitution. Local government actually make their resources via the states. It is in our constitution, Shehu. As a matter of fact,
as a joint purse,
in the current
I'm not certain. I mean, I beg to be corrected. I mean, I stand to be corrected. But it does look like the local government as an entity is recognized. And for those who believe that is a problem with the local government not functioning properly because the state governments, the state governors, have taken it as just part of their entity that they administer the way they want. And that is the grievance of a lot of people who are of the school of thought that the state government or the state governors are not allowing this third tier of government to perform its duties.
Allow me. And you can check this out. You can check this out, Sheung, whether what I'm telling you is correct or not. In the current constitution amendment process going on, one of the clauses that the National Assembly has just passed that they want to go into the constitution is the recognition of the local government as a third tier of government. If it is the existing provision, there will be no need for that amendment to be put forward by the National Assembly. But it has been put forward now, and it will go through the process in the 36 state assemblies, and we will see whether it passes that test of constitutional scrutiny or not. But coming back to the point you have made, I do not know of any government, and I stand to be correct, I'm the chairman of the Governors Forum. I talk to my colleagues, and I look at the votes. I am not aware of any governor that dips his hands into local government treasury and takes their money. I've been governor, this is my 8th year as governor in Ekiti State. I have never done anything to illegally remove or take any money that does not belong to state. All I do, I am a conduit. The Ekiti state government is a conduit for local government funds. We get it through our joint account and it's passed on to them to meet their responsibilities. More often than not, they do not have enough resources to meet those responsibilities and states have to come in to their rescue. And I can tell you, this is what happens in majority of the states that I know in Nigeria today. States, more often than not, put more resources in the hands of local government because they do not have enough resources to run their operation. And we need to address that rather than this red herring of governors stealing local government money. Money that is not even there. How do you steal it?
All right. Amos Nzeli, thank you so much, Your Excellency, the Governor of Ekiti State and the Chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum. Thank you so much for clarifying some of these issues and giving us the views of the standpoints of the governors of the 36 states. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you, Sean, for having me on the program tonight.
Thank you.